Charlotte's kit has been leaked for a while now. So in this video, I'll go over everything I know about Charlotte, including her playstyle, kit, passives, constellations, artifact sets, weapons, team compositions, materials, and finally some quick Q&A regarding her. Now without wasting any more time, let's check out her playstyle. Charlotte will be the 40th waifu, excluding all these, to be released in version 4.2. She'll be featured in both Furina's and Baijo's banners. Based on her Cryovision's design, it has been confirmed that her energy alignment is to Numa. In terms of her role, it looks like she'll mainly be a sub-DPS with more support capabilities such as debuffing enemies and healing party members than a main DPS. More on her debuffing in the next section. Now to those who had never seen Charlotte before, prior to Fontaine's release she was shown as an NPC, and she's a journalist for the Steambird who was visiting other nations like Mondstadt and Liyue. Okay, now let's get back to her kit. As per the leaks, she's a 4-star Cryo Catalyst user who, just like Haizu and Ryathusly, has a completely unique gameplay style. When you use her normal attacks, she takes pictures of nearby enemies. Her camera's flash will do cryo damage to nearby enemies. It looks like she does really well in short to medium ranged attacks. AC6 Charlotte with her normal attacks maxed out to level 15. She should be able to output 153% damage on her third hit. Her charged attack unleashes a Spirit Breaththorn attack, consuming 50 stamina and dealing a small area of effect cryo damage. The Spirit Breaththorn has a damage interval of 6 seconds. Her charged attacks will inflict Numa damage as well. Also, Charlotte's plunging attack is pretty much the same attack used by Catalyst users. Now, because of Hoyo's copyright shenanigans, I won't be able to show her attacking enemies, but believe me, she does look really cool. Based on the leaks, the animations of her elemental skill will be very similar to Nahida's elemental skill, in which she takes pictures like this. Also, just like Nahida, Charlotte's elemental skill will have 2 modes, a tap mode and a hold mode. When tapping the elemental skill button, Charlotte will apply a debuff to the opponents in front of her and deal cryo damage to them in delayed intervals for a certain period. This debuff is called Snappy Silhouette and can be applied to a total of 5 opponents. On the other hand, the hold version of Charlotte's elemental skill has her holding down her camera while the viewfinder expands and marks opponents. She can move her camera around freely, so it seems there will be another similarity with Nahida's hold version of her elemental skill. Also during this hold mode, there will be a timer that counts down called the finisher frame, and if Charlotte holds down the camera until the end of the timer, she will deal cryo damage to all the opponents caught in the viewfinder. She'll also apply the Snappy Silhouette debuff to these opponents as well. If you release the elemental skill ability only after the end of the finisher frame timer, a completely new debuff called Focused Impression will instead be put onto enemies instead of Snappy Silhouette. Unlike the Snappy Silhouette, the Focused Impression lasts longer by 12 seconds and deals more damage, but increases the cooldown for her elemental skill. If you're enjoying this video so far, a like and subscribe to the channel would be cool. Now let's look through her elemental burst. When she uses her burst called the Still Photo Comprehensive Confirmation, she creates an area that deals area of effect cryo damage to nearby enemies. Also, her burst will restore a part HP of all party members, even if they are not on field. This is very similar to Jean's elemental burst, and just like Jean, the active character will continue to restore HP until the burst is over. Charlotte's healing capabilities will scale off her own attack stat. This is why she may be viable as a main DPS. Again is a huge maybe, but based on her kit, her primary role is a sub-DPS with a lot of support capabilities. In addition to the initial blast, her burst passive, the verified scene will also deal cryo damage at set intervals. I'm curious to know what you guys think about her. Comment down below with your hypothesis of her. Charlotte will have 3 passives just like most of Genshin characters. Her first passive called the Moment of Impact will reduce the cooldown of her elemental skill by 2 seconds when opponents marked by her focused impression are defeated. This effect can occur 4 times every 12 seconds. Her second passive talent is called Diversity Survey, and it has 2 different effects based on your team composition. For every Fontainian character in the party other than Charlotte herself, she will gain a 5% healing bonus, up to a total of 15%. For every non-Fontainian character in the party, Charlotte will get a 5% boost to cryo damage, up to a total of 15%. Her third passive called the First Person Shutter will allow her to use the upcoming special gadget, called the Special Analysis Zoom Lens, to take photos in a quote-unquote more special way. Apparently, if this gadget is equipped, her elemental skill will not trigger her debuff effects and instead will take these special photos. Not much info has been leaked about this, and so I suppose we'll see exactly what that is in the coming weeks. Now let's have a look at her constellations. With Charlotte's C1, after her burst heals a character, it will mark them with a tag called Verification, which will heal them once every 2 seconds for 80% of Charlotte's attack. This effect lasts 6 seconds. Her C2 will increase her attack stat by 10%, 20%, or 30% for 12 seconds if her elemental skill hits 1, 2, 3, or more enemies. Charlotte's C3 will increase the level of her elemental burst by 3 and increase the level cap to 15. With C4, when Charlotte's burst hits an enemy marked by the speedy silhouette or focused impression from her elemental skill, it deals 10% more damage and restores 2 energy to Charlotte. The energy restoration with her C4 can be triggered 5 times every 20 seconds. Her C5 increases the elemental skills level by 3 and raises the level cap up to 15. With her C6, when the active character's normal and charged attack hit opponents marked by Charlotte's elemental skills focused impression buff, her camera will initiate a follow-up attack that deals 180% of Charlotte's attack as AoE cryo damage, while also healing the active characters within the same AoE for 42% of her attack stat. This effect can be triggered every 6 seconds, and both damage and healing will be considered as part of her elemental burst. Based on her kit, passives, and constellations, it does affirm my impression of her being a sub-DPS with support capabilities. And since all talents and constellations focus only on her attack stat, I guess she'll be a really easy character to build as well. What do you guys think about this? Now let's have a look at the best artifacts for Charlotte. When it comes to building Charlotte, the best way to build her is to give her as much attack percentage as you can. Not only will this increase her own damage, especially at C6, but will also boost the amount of healing she provides to your party members. That being said, if you don't have her at C6, it is possible to give her artifacts with EM to boost her cryo damage. But since her main role is a sub-DPS with support capabilities, and since most of us will use her as an enemy debuffer and a healer, I would personally advise to use artifacts that increase her attack percentage. That being said, her best artifact set would be 2-piece Gladiator's Finale and 2-piece Shimenawa's Reminiscence, or 2-piece Echoes of an Offering or Vermilion Hereafter with a healing bonus circlet. This will ensure you get the maximum damage and healing bonus from her elemental burst and skill at C6. An alternative set to this is to use the 4-piece Noblesse Oblige. However, more testing is still needed to confirm whether this set will yield the highest possible benefits when using her skill and burst. Overall, Noblesse Oblige is a good support set that will not disappoint. The 4-piece Maiden Beloved set or 4-piece Ocean Hued Clam set also seems like good options if you're planning to use Charlotte purely as a healer. But sets that boost her attack such as Gladiator or Shimenawa would be better options than the Maidens or Ocean Hued set. Alternatively, the 4-piece Golden Troop might also be a good set for her if you intend to use her skill for debuffing and damaging the enemies. This set would particularly be useful if you don't have her at C6. So there's quite a few ways to build Charlotte if you get her. Whether you just started Genshin or whether you've been playing for a while, these sets would be relatively easy to farm for her. Comment down below which artifact sets you will be equipping her with. Now let's have a look at her weapon tier list. When it comes to Charlotte, she does have quite few good 4-star and 5-star options to choose from. However, there are no good 3-star options for her, so let's just put all these in D tier. Likewise, I'm not going to go through these weapons at C tier. These weapons at B tier are decent, but since there are some good 4-star options available, I'll skip past this tier as well. Let's have a look at Tier A. Skyward Atlas and Memory of Dust have a high base attack which would be useful for Charlotte's damage output, but does not provide sufficient ER to keep her burst constantly available for use. Now for her S tier. For star weapons like the Favonius Codex, Oathsworn Eye, Prototype Amber, and the Wine and Song can be decent choices. They offer various combinations of stats like energy recharge, attack, and elemental damage bonuses. Let me know if you'd like to see a more comprehensive breakdown of weapons for Charlotte. I'm not going over most of these weapons as there's a lot of good options for her, and depending on your artifacts and Charlotte's constellation level, you might need different weapons for her. In terms of her teams, she seems to be a really versatile character who works well in a variety of different teams. She can work especially well in almost any team that simply wants to apply cryo. In freeze teams, she works really well as a debuffer and a healer. In this team, she will offer enough cryo application to enable constant freezing on the enemies while also healing the party. She would be particularly useful for a Riotously team with Furina. But overall, she works really well in any team that requires freezing. Charlotte will work really well in a fridge team, acting as both an on- and off-field support. In this team, she'll be supporting 3 Archons, Raiden, Furina, and Nahida. You could alternatively swap Raiden with another Electro character, such as Ye Miko or Fischl, and Furina with Yelan or Xingqiu. However, this fridge team's main damage comes from the 3 Archons, so Charlotte will act as the buffer. The Instructor set will particularly be useful for this team composition. Likewise, if you switch Raiden with a Pyro character such as Hu Tao or Tama, this fridge team can be converted to a Burn Melt or Burgeon team. Now, putting Hu Tao in this team kind of breaks the whole purpose of the team, so I'd stick with Tama or Xiangling for this specific team. Charlotte's best team would be a national team, with Xiangling, Bennett, and Furina. She would really benefit from being a driver for these 3 characters in this team. In my opinion, this would be her best team as well. You could also swap Xiangling or Furina for an Anemo shredder such as Vindi, Kazuha, or Sucrose as well. Now for her materials. In order to level up Charlotte, you'll need to farm these items. 1 Shervada Jade Silver, 9 Shervada Jade Fragment, 9 Shervada Jade Chunk, 6 Shervada Jade Gemstone, 46 Tabion Device, 18 Meshing Gear, 30 Mechanical Spur Gear, 36 Artifice Dynamic Gear, 168 Barrel Conch, and 420,000 Mora. To level up her talents, you'll need 3 Teaching of Justice, 22 Guide to Justice, 38 Philosophies of Justice, 6 Meshing Gear, 22 Mechanical Spur Gear, 31 Artifice Dynamic Gear, 6 Boss Material, Unknown, 1 Crown of Insight, and 1,653,000 Mora. Now before we wrap up, let's look at some questions some of you might have regarding Charlotte. First up, is she a main DPS or a sub-DPS? Based on everything we just went through, she is not a main DPS and instead is a sub-DPS with support capabilities such as healing. But since her damage as well as her healing scales with attack percentage, at lower AR levels she can be used as a main DPS without any issues. But if you're at a higher AR level, say 50 and above, you might not be able to clear the Abyss or domains as easily as some other characters. Secondly, how good is her healing? At C6, she would most likely be able to heal 50% of the entire party's HP with her burst. However, all this depends on her attack percentage, so the exact number of healing she provides will vary from person to person. Therefore, once she's released, we'll know the exact number. For the final question, should you pull for her? Charlotte is a 4-star character who will be featured alongside Furina, so if you're pulling for Furina, you'll definitely get her. If you get Furina and still want to get Charlotte to C6, I'd say it depends on whether you like Charlotte as a character rather than her damage or healing. There are other characters who could do Charlotte's job much better than her, but if you like her design or just want to use her in your team, getting her C6 would be ideal, especially since her best output is at C6. So that's it for today's video. Make sure to comment down below with your thoughts about Charlotte, and I'd be happy to engage with you all in the comments section below. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel for more leak videos. Until next time, see ya.